Hello there. Flood catastrophes, forest fires, and the pandemic still doesn't seem to be enough. Nevertheless, the federal government here in Germany wants to make drastic savings at the responsible authorities, and that causes trouble. The German federal social democratic green liberal government wants to spend less money on civil protection and disaster control in the coming year. Specifically, the Federal Office for Civil Protection and Disaster Assistance and the Federal Agency for Technical Relief are to have significantly less funds available than this year. This is what the draft budget for 2023 envisages. And this is now the first criticism. The Christian Democrat politician Detlef Seif sees the planned cuts in funding as a threat to the protection of the population. With all understanding for the difficult budgetary situation, these drastic budget cuts for civil protection are the completely wrong signal, says a press release by the CDU. Because there are many challenges in this area, according to the Union Rapporteur for Civil Protection. The flood disaster in 2021, the corona pandemic, forest fires, and also the civil protection situation due to the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine have made it clear that there is a great need for investment. And the deputy demanded that these needs should also be reflected in the budget. At the Federal Office for Civil Protection and Disaster Assistance, a drop in expenditure of a good 112 million euros to almost 174 million euros is planned for the coming year compared to 2022, according to a corresponding statement by the German Bundestag, the federal parliament. According to this, the expenditure for the Federal Agency for Technical Relief should fall by around 158 million euros in 2023 compared to the previous year to a good 386 million euros. According to Seif's press release, the planned cuts will affect, among other things, the areas of warning the population, education and training for disaster managers, and the mobile care modules for people in disaster situations. That is absolutely incomprehensible, said the opposition politician. The federal and state governments would have to spend enough money to protect the population. Crisis prevention and crisis preparedness could save lives and avoid high property damage. But how can these cuts be justified? At the request of T-Online, the Federal Ministry of Finance under Liberal Minister Christian Lindner referred to Nancy Faeser, that's a Social Democrat in the Ministry of the Interior. A spokeswoman for the Ministry of the Interior said that the lower estimate in 2023 compared to 2022 does not actually represent a reduction, because from 2020 to 22 there were special programs for special purchases. For example, vehicles and special equipment were procured for the Technical Relief Organization. Compared to 2019, the years of the economic stimulus programs, the expenditure for the year 2023 will increase for both the Federal Office for Civil Protection and Disaster Assistance and for the Federal Agency for Technical Relief. The Technical Relief Organization does not want to comment on the process that has not yet been completed and the current plans when they were asked by German journalists. The cabinet approved the draft for next year's budget at the beginning of July. At the beginning of September, the members of the federal parliament, the Bundestag, will discuss this. No response was received from the Federal Office for Disaster Management within the specified period by the journalists as well. At the German Fire Brigade Association, that's the DFV, the funds allocated to the budget cause horror and complete incomprehension, according to the Feuerwehr magazine. The ability to be better prepared than before in the event of disasters and crises would not be increased but reduced, said Association President Karl-Heinz Banse. The Association for the Promotion of German Fire Protection also sees drastic consequences. If the project is to be implemented, the state will hardly be able to meet its obligation to protect the population, says their president Dirk Aschenbrenner, and that would be a disaster. Both Banse and Aschenbrenner refer to recent events such as the forest fires and the flood disaster. These make it clear that more and not less investment is needed, and I personally totally agree with both of them. There's a lot what we turned away from after the Cold War, And we know the situation in Russia changed a lot of minds there. But also with the climate change, with the recent disasters, we had a flooding here, a major flooding here in my hometown in 2014, with major damage, with even deaths. And there needs more to be done and not less. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.